attack this lap.
Checker flag, checker flag.
The race for a greener future has given rise to a new breed of motorsport. Welcome to Extreme E, an all-electric racing series travelling across the globe, not only to raise awareness of the challenges our planet faces, but to promote diversity and inclusion in sport.
From the deserts of Saudi Arabia, our 9 men and 9 women are now on the Atlantic coast of Senegal for the Ocean X Prix. Staged across a 6.1 kilometre course, the teams will fight side by side on the beach to take glory here in Africa.
The desert is done. A charged wind blows our heroes west. Rising from the waves, battle worn and weary. But the fight is not over. A new challenge awaits. The ocean. A demanding trial that will test every ounce of courage, determination, and commitment. Full focus, full send. The ocean takes no prisoners. The earth will shake, waves devour, as they race for more than glory. The next chapter of this electric odyssey will be written here, on African shores.
Hello from Senegal. We are here for round 2 of Extreme E, the Ocean X Prix. My name's Andrew Coley. Joining me on commentary, as always, is Jenny Gow. We've got some fantastic guests lined up for you on site as well. We had a brilliant Q1 earlier on today, and we are looking forward to Q2, starting on Beach Straight along the edge of the Atlantic Ocean. Absolutely fantastic. If you're brand new to Extreme E, this is how it works.
The world's finest drivers have joined brand new teams to compete in the Extreme E Championship. Each team will consist of 1 female and 1 male driver. The drivers will compete in X Prix across the globe, each highlighting a specific environmental issue. The male and female driver must compete 1 lap each in any order and can choose at the last moment who starts. Each team has 2 hyperdrive power boosts they can activate on lap 1 and lap 2 of the race. Over the course of an X Prix, the team who goes quickest through the super sector collects a further 5 team championship points. Day 1 is qualifying. Qualifying round 1 sees all teams set times. Each car will do 2 laps, 1 from each of their drivers. In qualifying round 2, all the teams head out on the course again. The times from both sessions are then added together to make up the qualifying order and grab the first championship points of the weekend. The top 3 go to semi-final 1, 4th, 5th and 6th go to the second semi-final, with the bottom 3 heading to the shootout race to fight it out for precious championship points. Day 2 starts with the semi-finals, with the top 2 teams from each semi progressing to the final. The bottom 3 teams from Day 1's qualifying go head-to-head in the shootout race to decide who finishes 7th, 8th and 9th overall. Grid play allows fans to vote for their favourite team and drivers. The team that collects the most votes get first grid position pick for the final, with the second and third teams choosing in order after. But there is a twist. The teams who do not reach the final can still have an impact, as they can donate their votes to any team that reaches the final and influence who eventually wins the all-important grid play. In the final, the team that crosses the line first wins the X Prix and claims 25 championship points, with the following teams collecting further championship points in descending order. All 5 X Prix count towards the team's championship, and in the Drivers' Championship, competitors can drop their worst X Prix result of the season. Who has what it takes to lift the trophy?
Well, that's how the weekend works. If you're just joining us, we are getting ready for qualification 2, the final qualifying session of the weekend ahead of the semis and the finals tomorrow. We've already had Q1.
This is what happened. Veloce first out of the blocks. They needed a decent builder after having a terrible weekend in Saudi Arabia. Then it was the Acciona Sainz team, but their weekend not going to plan.
No, it didn't. They were absolutely flying. Literally, as you can see, Carlos Sainz with the big air, but a shake of the head. He wasn't happy with his switch, and then the car stopped. They were a DNF. No good at all. This car stopped too. Andretti United's machine. Katie Munnings didn't think she'd get a run. Somehow Timmy got it back to the switch zone. They did finish, but they lost 3 minutes.
XRX, the Rosberg team doing well again. They are our championship leaders, and look at them flying high in the sand.
Abt Cupra, driver change. Ekstrom still in. Hertgen isn't well. So Jutta Kleinsmith, the female championship driver, took her seat, and she was absolutely rapid. Unfortunately, she was a bit too quick at the switch zone. They were given a penalty which dropped them down a place, but they are definitely going to threaten if they can keep up with the likes of Loeb and Gutierrez. Gutierrez was so impressive. She's right up the standings on the super sector, really fast, as was Sarah Price and Kyle Leduc.
Appointment to
Maximum
watch,
attack.
because you want to see these guys in round 2. They were phenomenal in round 1. Set the screens alight.
Kevin Hansen taking over from Jensen Button this weekend. Jensen watching from home. Kevin at the wheel, sending it. Michaela Arlen-Kotlinski improving her pace on every single run. They can threaten as well. And this, of course, is Excite Racing. They're in P7 at the minute. If they can get to P6, they'll be into the semi-finals. They've got to go hard in this next session.
Yep, everyone knows what they've got to do. It's set up beautifully for qualifying round 2. Let's keep our eyes on it and see where this goes.
X44 qualifying leaders, Seb, Loeb here. Is this exactly the start you wanted from the Ocean X Prix?
For sure, we couldn't have a really better start than this. We are leading we won the qualifying one. Now it will be very important to do a good qualifying too. But the start is great. Christina did a great run too, so we were both in a good rhythm. And so it's looking good at the moment, but the fight will be intense.
You've been here in the command center watching your competitors' runs very closely. What are your thoughts on your opponents?
I think we have Leduc and Price, which are really strong. Leduc is pushing really hard, Sarah is very fast too. So, but also the other with Christopherson, we know that he's able to be very fast. You see now the team with Ekstrom and Jutta Kleinsmith, which is also very strong. So it's important to do a clean run, not to lose too much time, because it will be quite close, I think.
So Sebastian Loeb and Christina Gutierrez setting the fastest time this morning in X44. Who can challenge them? Who can go fastest? Who can tackle these sandy dunes, the moguls, the back straight, the front straight, the beach straight? So many different points to try and work out. And remember, these are the locations that we're going to. We've had Saudi Arabia already. This is the Ocean X Prix in Senegal, West Africa, but more locations to come.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what the tracks are like. If you look how fantastic, what a beautiful backdrop there is here. Of course, we're facing issues at each of these locations. That's why we're visiting them. But just, yeah, fantastic, fantastic circuit in Senegal. What are we going to have at the next 3 rounds as well?
So Ocean X Prix is highlighting the issues that we have with rising sea temperatures and plastic harming the world that we live in today. But it's a fantastic course. We start off going around to the right, and that's going to be really interesting to watch for tomorrow when we have 4 cars in the final.
Yeah, turn 1 really early, Jenny. Last time in Saudi Arabia, it was a kilometre run like this before turn 1. Okay, it's kind of 100 metres, but I think the right-hand side of the grid is going to be where you'll see whoever wins grid play choose to go. I think it will be more important. Then you've got to nail the start. Do you use your hyperdrive? That super long run up to the cut, which is where we turn right. And then we get more into single track. Options on lines. But yeah, it's going to be tricky when 4 cars are in there. It's tricky enough with 1.
Yeah, this is called the cut, as they cut into from the beach to the mainland in between Lac Rose and the Atlantic Ocean. Arching around now, going through quite a technical circuit. This one very different from last time out in Saudi Arabia.
It certainly is. You can see there a little sign for the super sector. That's the middle sector of the track. Whichever driver from any team that goes fastest in any session will take 5 championship points. You want to go fast in here, you want to risk it through the moguls. Everyone who's risked it through the moguls, well, they've had a wild ride, let's put it that way. In and out to the woods, and then another section where you can pick your line. Are we going to see some passing through here?
Fair to say we've already had a lot of action so far this morning, and this section is changing. It's very different to how it started. So now where there were big jumps and dunes, the tops have come off them, or where there's sand that's loose, they're really digging in now.
You think this looks bumpy? Go and ask Kyle Leduc whether it's bumpy, because if you look at his sector times from the previous session, you might as well have had this as a flat straight down the beach. He was absolutely lit through here. There was no lifting. He lit up the screens with purple and pink sectors to get himself right up. They were just 5 seconds off the back of X44. Last couple of corners here, maybe they lost a couple of seconds. They used their hyperdrive to get to the finish line. What are we going to see tactics-wise in Q2? Cannot wait for this. Going to find out who is going to be the top qualifier in Senegal.
So we are ready to go into the second round of qualifying. All eyes will be on what happens next. So the cars are ready, the drivers are ready. Are you ready? I hope so, because we are in for a thriller here in Senegal. First car out on track then in qualifying 2, and it's the Veloce car. Veloce Racing needing a solid weekend. Decent qualifying 1. Could they make up time in qualifying 2? It was Stefan Sarazan taking to the wheel first.
Yeah, Sarazan, rally, WEC, F1. He's got all the experience he needs. Unfortunately, last time got caught out by that tuft in Saudi, had an absolutely enormous crash, gave the team a fair amount of work to do on arrival here in Senegal. They came and literally worked flat out for 3 days and nights to get the car re-prepped, along with a couple of the other teams as well, it has to be said. Cars being shipped on the Santa Elena. Being in P6, they will be very keen to hold on to that position. It was a tidy run by Sarazan, handing over to Chadwick, and Chadwick can be taking the start in the semi-finals.
Nervous watching on. You can see there Sarazan just slowing the car down, 30 kilometers an hour in the switch zone. Chadwick running out. They do this switch over, very reminiscent of a world endurance car. The inlay seat goes in. Some drivers choosing to help their teammates, others just getting out the way.
We target today to do clean day without mistake, and we are top 6. So.
Here's Sarazan in the background there, talking about being in the top 6, having jumped out of the car. Chadwick continuing the learning curve of off-road racing, such a different discipline, but I think such a valuable one. There's another little lesson. She did well. She hung on to it as you would expect her to. She is a driver of a very high class. Just finding the rhythm of a motorsport, Jenny, which is a little bit more three-dimensional. So
exciting to see these drivers take on something that they've never done before, to experience something, and around the shores of where, you know, we're used to this as a Dakar base. It's so great.
I think I'm really enjoying as well the fact that none of the drivers have done this before. So, okay, you've got the likes of Carl Leduc coming in from Pro 4 trucks, but it's completely different. You know, Jamie Chadwick's coming from single-seaters, drivers coming from rallycross, from rally circuit racing. They've all got to learn, because this championship is absolutely unique. Electric SUVs jumping their way around the beach in Senegal.
Love the fact that Jean-Eric Verne, the boss of the team, said, nah, not for me. I'll leave it up to them. Probably wise. So finishing the session, 6th place. Solid run for them.
Car 2 coming up to the line, ready to take the start for their final qualifying session. They've got some work to do. Andretti United, Katie Munnings and Timmy Hansen, they had a puncture last time in Saudi Arabia in Q1. And I think everybody thought that was going to be it for them, but thanks to the crashes of others and problems, they made it through to the semi-finals. Of course, they ended up P2 on the podium, but They really need a great time here, and they need somebody else to have a problem. They weren't a DNF, remember, they were 3.5 minutes down. So they need somebody to have a 3.5 minute problem, ideally, Jenny, or a retirement to push them back up.
Absolutely, they do. You wouldn't wish ill on anybody else, but at times like this, you've got to hope things come together. So, let's see what Andretti United can do. It'll be Munnings in the car first. She's taking her first start. She spent a lot of time, Andrew, practicing these starts to try and get them better, hasn't she?
Yeah, so she was in Sweden with me a couple of weeks ago. She was racing in a championship called Rally X Nordic. It's a rallycross championship up there. She raced a buggy, so a really low, really high-powered car, against some of the best buggy racers in the world. And that was the point, really. She wasn't worried about whether she could match their lap times. What she was worried about is what happens when 5 cars go into turn 1 together. So yeah, she's taken the start here, but the practice, Jenny, has been very much about proximity to other vehicles on the run into the first corner. I think it's a great move. She's basically investing in her skill set to make sure that she's high on that list of drivers for the teams. We know she's quick, but without the racing experience, there was a question mark over how that would go. She's, you know what, I'm going to erase that question mark. I'm going to go racing.
Yeah, and good for her. Increasing your knowledge base, learning more, learning all the time. She is phenomenal talent. We saw last time her grappling with the car when the power steering failed. Now let's see. Green box down there shows that she's gaining. So that's really good news for them. Not such good news for Chadwick and Sarrazin at the moment, but that's positive for the team Munnings and Hansen.
Yeah, so they're going quicker than Sarrazin and Chadwick, but of course you can see they're plus 3 minutes, and that is from the issue that they had earlier on today.
All they can do, though, is try and claw back time. That's the mission today.
Yeah.
Yes, they might not get the fastest time, but as long as they're improving, keep on learning.
Never give up. Go as fast as you can. Somebody could have a puncture and lose a minute, and you could go in by 1.5 seconds at the end of the session. If you take it too easy on this, Katie's definitely not taking it easy. You know, you could end up losing a place in the semis, and that's just not what you want. They've got to go for it.
She almost had a windscreen wipers in. There was so much sand being flicked up onto the car. So this is a face of concentration, and one that we're getting very used to with Munnings, just watching her in that car with the visor down against the angle of the sun.
Now, while you're looking at cumulative time, bottom right of your screen, that's Q1 plus the laps that they're doing here in Q2. I've been looking at the timing screen here, and Veloce did an 11:27. Now, in their first session, they did an 11:37, so they went some 10 seconds faster. So that suggests that the track conditions are similar enough that you can still match the pace of before, but also I would suggest that probably Chadwick has gone a bit quicker and Sarrazin has gone a bit quicker. They've spotted some places they can take a few more risks, Jenny, but it'll be interesting for us to see which teams improve on their morning times and which don't.
And also whether they decide to take the same line as they did in the first qualifying session, or whether they want to alter things up. If you look at, particularly through that gate that they've just passed through, you can see there's big, deep ridges. And maybe just going slightly differently, taking a different line will pay dividends to that. Of course, here you can go right or left of that bush, and it's fascinating to watch what the teams are deciding to do.
When we watched some of the session earlier on, we thought, didn't we, immediately that there was some clear lines that Kyle Leduc could take, and there was a line somebody else took as well, and we thought, okay, if I was watching in the paddock, I'd be thinking, you know what, I reckon that's the better line through there. It was worth something like half a second, wasn't it, between 2 waypoints. You get that between 35 waypoints, and suddenly you're absolutely flying up the leaderboard.
Yeah, very physical Extreme E, and you can just see how much work is going into keeping this car on track, fighting at the wheel, making sure that you're making gains all the way along.
Katie was making gains in that last sector. They've lost about 13 seconds on where they were at the start of the run. I think they were 3 minutes back, weren't they, when we looked as she came into the woods, close to the start of it. Katie still full concentration mode. There you saw the bump, and actually her crash helmet rolled slightly forward. There's not a lot she can do about that. She could go down a size of lid, but if you go down too small, it then feels very tight and you can end up with a headache. So she may be between helmet sizes. They could possibly put a little bit more padding in it. It won't be to do with the chin strap, I know that much, but you don't want it dropping down like that, Jenny. We saw Timmy doing the same thing, if you remember, in the first run. Grabbed the chin strap of his helmet and pushed it up, but it's a good indicator of how physical it is in the car. Yeah,
it's a huge frustration when you get something like that. It can be so distracting from what you're trying to do. You need so much concentration to just keep these Odyssey 21s on track, that having something like that just bugging you, getting annoying, will be very frustrating, and certainly the team will look look to help her out with
Yeah,
that.
no distractions. Anything that is a distraction is a waste of energy. It's a waste of concentration. You know, when they're absolutely on the limit, any driver, they're in this zone which takes up, you know, however much of your consciousness. The very best drivers are able to operate at that level, and then they're getting messages from the teams. You know, they're changing settings on the cars. You give them a distraction, oh, there's a distraction. You give them a distraction, it's something else to think about. So yes, they will look at that. Katie coming in hot now, reaching down, looking for the speed limiter. Up and over the crest, got to get this braking zone dead right. Off to the right-hand side. You'll watch the nose of the buggy dip down. Car, sorry. Oh, locks the wheels slightly. Very deep sand there. I think you can brake later there. I think Sebastian Loeb got it bang on. He was so late on the brakes, but bury the car in the sand and use the sand to slow yourself down.
Yeah, absolutely. So into the switch zone, 30 kilometers an hour. Munnings will hand over to her teammate Timmy Hansen, the 29-year-old just standing there, biding his time, and they'll flag her in. There are 3 different zones today which she can go in to make the switch. So in she goes onto neutral. Now no one can move until that car is in neutral, and then they'll help Munnings out and get Hansen in.
So Timmy climbs in. He goes in legs first. Sometimes see the drivers going in completely head first. We saw Kyle Leduc do that. They removed the wheel and he clambered in using the steering column.
You have to think it's a real advantage for those that are similar when it comes to their stature and height.
Oh, massively, yeah, massively. You can see Katie got the belts loosened off. Timmy's got them super tight. Look, he always wears, well, you should wear your belts mega tight, but look, he's ready to go. They're miles ahead. We know they were doing switches in the region of 25 seconds last time. They were one of the teams that wanted the switch zone shortened. Carlos Sainz is one of the teams, I think it's fair to say, that didn't really want it shortened. So we're going to have a chat with Katie Munning. She's just come in for the course right now.
Katie, we noticed, well, you finished the final lap now. We noticed some distractions with your helmet there. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it was just the bumps. It was just like, you know, I think we're having a bit of a tough day here. Obviously, we had bad luck in Quali 1 with the car stopping. Tried to make some adjustments on the bumps and just kind of, I just felt so kind of bumpy in the car, and my helmet was literally banging around all over the place. So yeah, tough day here. Hopefully Timmy will do a better job.
It appears to be a pretty physical course and it's changing all the time, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, there's more ruts now, but yeah, it's so hard to judge because every bump, you can hit the same bump twice, but it never feels the same in the car. So yeah, challenging weekend. I think, yeah, it might take a miracle now to reach the semis, but still time, and hopefully we'll get some luck on our side.
I'll allow you to dash to the command centre and watch your teammate. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can hear Katie sounds despondent there, and I don't want her to. We don't ever like to hear that from drivers, but I totally understand why. She said we need a miracle, and they do, unfortunately, Jenny. Timmy's going to get out there and do the best he can. You know, an annoying little niggle like that with a car, that is motorsport, and they've had an issue with it. Everybody gets them. You know, they had a puncture last time. I don't know. It's not over yet. It's not over until the end of this session.
No, and Timmy taking a really interesting line before. You saw him go right by the sea, and we've not seen anyone take the lower route on that beach stretch when they're doing the switch. So that's really interesting. They've obviously had a look at it and thought maybe they'll just have a little look and see and get the information.
For me, I think it would be faster. If you think about the resistance of the loose sand as you're trying to accelerate through it, you drop down onto that super smooth, flat sand that the ocean has completely flattened off for you. Give it the hyperdrive and get the car down to the end of the straight as fast as you can. The question is whether or not you lose more time climbing back up onto it. Timmy's taken around 5-6 seconds off the time of Veloce already. They were 3:10 or 3:15 down at the end of the run.
Timmy's having a great time out there. Look at that car bouncing around, flicking around. The rear end gets a little bit loose through it, but we've seen that doesn't necessarily mean it's a negative. And the green square at the bottom means he's pushing on. He's going faster, and that is what they need to do. Really nice drive from Timmy. This is one of the other big jumps up that they have to do, and you can get yourself a little loose on the way out from here. So let's see how they do.
Still closing the time down, still green. Hansen was flying, wasn't he, on that first run? Timmy actually, I think, set one of the quickest sectors in Saudi Arabia, and then with the problem with the car shutting down, they'll be absolutely gutted. High in the championship standings too, weren't they? They were P3, I think, in the standings.
Yep, P3, they had 28 points, X44 30 points, and Rosberg X Racing 35 points. Look at that split screen, you can see so much. Munnings has made it back to the control center, so she's standing there. looking at everything, and then you can see the front wheel. Oh, so close to that hoarding that we're seeing Hansen go.
Yeah, he's hammering this, he's shaving time off everywhere. Timmy we didn't have a super sector in Saudi Arabia, goes left here off the crest. If we'd had one in Saudi Arabia, Timmy would have been second by 0.2 of a second from Christopherson. So we absolutely know that he's got that ultimate pace in him. Look at that, another 3 seconds off. So Hansen is flying. In terms of the 3 sectors, he's gone with a 1:56.8 on that middle sector. Who was quickest in there earlier on today? Let's have a look at the super sector times.
Wow, rear end flicking up, and he's just lost his way a little bit, going off, I think, what would be sort of seen as the optimum line, but he's back on it now, so good recovery there.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, Kyle Leduc went through that middle sector in 1:50.8 this morning, so maybe it has cut up a little bit more. Either way, he's closing that time down, Jenny. All they can do is get as close as they can and hope that somebody has issues that drops them further back. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of like a recovery drive into the unknown, because they don't know how anybody else is going to go. They don't know what issues other people will face, as you say.
Car is moving around a lot at the rear, isn't it? It really is. That's partly the track breaking up, but it looked a particularly rough ride through the right-hander that was at the back of our shot there. Coming down now to the double right onto the beach. Well, they're currently on for P2, and of course that's because this is a cumulative time. I think this will be a faster run than we saw from Chadwick and Sarazan with Veloce, but it's still got a 3+ minute deficit thanks to that issue in Q1. So Andretti United fighting back as hard as they can. Timmy Hansen is flat out now to the finish line. There it is. They've done all that could be asked of them. They've gone as quick as they could go. And that is their total time, 25 minutes 57 for the 4 laps. 2 for Timmy, 2 for Katie, plus 2 minutes 51.6. And you can see Timmy and Katie both frustrated because they know there's nothing they can do about it. Early cars in qualifying 2, Veloce off the line. Driver swap, remember, in the second session, the other driver must take the wheel. And we're having a look, basically analysing, have they made the right tactics? Did they do the right thing in the 2 sessions to get to where they are? I think it's been a low-risk strategy, Jenny, from Veloce. They went a lot quicker on their second run than they did on the first one. I think they'll make the semis. Would they have made the semis, though, if Sainz, Acciona and Andretti United hadn't had issues?
I think they'd be hard pushed, but with that knowledge inside, maybe you do go conservative. Maybe you use this to try and make sure that tomorrow, when the points matter and are paid out, you are as high as you can be. So I think actually tactic-wise, very sensible. And they've got Jean-Eric Vergne there, who is a mastermind when it comes to racing. 2-time Formula E champion, Formula 1 as well. You know, he knows what it's like to be out there, and he understands that you've sometimes got to bide your time.
We spoke to him earlier on today as well, didn't we? He'd said about having a nice atmosphere for the team, and yeah, okay, they've done a good job. They've gone quick. They haven't made the mistakes they made in Saudi Arabia by trying to run before they could walk and ended up with a big crash and lost out. We think they'll make it through to the semi-finals. We're not so sure about Andretti United. At this stage in the competition, they need misfortune for others. They won't wish it on them, but they're certainly not going to complain if somebody else stops or somebody else gets a puncture and they end up going through, which was why, Jenny, it was still important for them to push as hard as they could, despite more than a 3-minute deficit.
Yeah, you can see there Katie Munnings just going down the beach straight, getting to grips with this Odyssey 21 car, and as she goes past all that horrible plastic at the side of the Atlantic Ocean and then turns right towards Lac Rose, with the beautiful Lac Rose colours actually reflected on the Andretti United car this weekend. She knows what she has to do. She has to try her hardest to get as fast as she can, as slick as she can, and keep on learning this course. So flicking the car around as she goes into this mogul section. That's 11, and as you just saw there, 10 on the markers.
Judging the risk of the drops nicely. Difficult, isn't it? Timmy and Katie this morning, how many times did they land the car like this and they had no issue at all, and then one bad landing they think maybe caused the issue? But it's one of those horrible faults, which is very hard to find. I'll be interested to hear if they looked at the data, if they figured out exactly what it was. At least they got the car going again, which is better than Acciona's science. They're keeping their fingers crossed and hoping that maybe somebody else has an issue as well and they can just scrape their way into the semi-finals. Could we see another epic fight back from Andretti United? Q2 continues in Senegal. 2 cars down. We've got 7 still to go. Christopherson and Taylor for RXR are up next. They were the winners of round 1, but they're not quite on the pace we expected here at round 2. Teams are in the command centre and ready to go. In front of them there, they've got the pictures of the race feed. They've got their timing screens. That's Scott Elkins that you can hear, the race director, letting the teams know there's 30 seconds to go on the left-hand side. Johan Christopherson stood there waiting to take his turn in the car. Molly will be taking the start for this one. Molly Taylor down on the line and ready to go. We saw Matthias Ekstrom in there as well. He'll be going second into the Abt Cupra car. She's lining up next. Jutta Kleinsmith will be at the wheel of that for the start. All to play for in Q2. Here we go. Molly Taylor off the line for RXR. A little bit of left and right steering lock just to get the car away from the line. Not too much wheel spin. She waits then. I think they are using hyperdrive off the start. Again, you can see that wonderful rear shot there. The left wheel just drops slightly down. And indeed, she pulls her hand away from the dash. Pretty sure they're using it along this straight again. And immediately you can see there, they're 35 seconds up. Remember, this is a cumulative time from Q1 and Q2 added together. So this will be against Hansen. No, this will be against Chadwick and Sarazan. Drops the car down low onto the beach and then up high. It's interesting the line they're taking through there, trying to smoothen off the turn-in into, I suppose, turn 2, Jenny, at the end of the straight, really.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. And they are all taking a slightly different line now. I wonder if high tide, low tide has something to do with that. Maybe it looks a little bit different to us, but actually it could be quite a similar line. It's hard to tell from this angle.
When the edge of the track moves, like the ocean, track limits are pretty hard to determine, aren't they? Luckily, we have all our waypoints out on track there.
Gosh, she's so impressive, isn't she? When I look at Molly Taylor, I think I aspire to be the driver that she is, because she is incredible. The power that she is able to deploy in this car, the touch, the deftness of it. 35 seconds up, it's phenomenal.
I just want to give a nod as well to Molly Taylor's commitment to this series, because Molly, as you will know, is Australian. And at the moment, to go in and out of Australia, she has to do a 14-day quarantine. When she went back after Saudi Arabia, she spent 14 days in a hotel room. She'd had some exercise equipment delivered. Oh, Taylor up on the nose, drags it back down. Well saved. Goodness me. That would have been an early trip back to Australia. But yeah, bless her, she spent a fortnight in a hotel room in Australia just to be able to compete in this series, and I suspect she's going to have to do the same again here, Jenny. So it's a massive commitment from her. I'm wondering if there's anything wrong with the car. She's been frowning at it since that moment, but that may just be frowning at you know, the mistake.
Yeah, the frustration that she didn't quite get it right. So now she's got to refocus. That was a big push, wasn't it? She goes into the wood section. So this will be a chance just to take a couple of breaths, try and get yourself back on track, because she's going to go into one of the hardest parts now of this course.
So hard to reset though, isn't it? Because she's, as you say, coming into one of the riskiest sections in terms of the bumps and somewhere where you can make up a huge amount of time if you're fully committed, and just had that moment.
Tell you what though, I mean, she's lost 2 seconds, and that could have been a huge loss. She managed to save it just about, but she'll now want to just chip away at that and make sure she can try and find that 2 seconds again. She'll be frustrated at herself for not getting that right. Right, she goes to the right of that scrubland. Let's see what line she takes here. This is when the 4 cars are going to be racing tomorrow and competing against each other in the final. This will be a big talking point of which line they take down this bit. 2 very different options.
Yeah, is it possible to take the option line, the alternate line, and still get past? But also, how much of those banks do you use? Yeah, if you can get alongside someone, you get a bit more traction out the previous corner and get alongside, you might as well risk it. chuck it over the top of some of the crest, get the car halfway in the road, get in the door of the other driver, push them wide. I'm excited about the racing here, Jenny, tomorrow.
Yeah, I think we're in for a real treat. Qualifying, of course, you get 2 lots of qualifying, each car being taken out by both drivers in the sessions. Those times are added together, so as you can see, once again going heavy into that. Veloce, their joint time for today's running is 23:05.370. That's the benchmark at the moment. And then you go into tomorrow, semi-final 1 for the top 3, semi-final 2 for the next 3, and then going into the shootout for the final 3.
I wonder if they might have made a settings change, Jenny, between the 2 sessions in an attempt to try and find a bit more pace. You probably would have a punt at the settings. They're pretty safe. I mean, they're in P3, but they're in P3 because Abt Cupra were given a penalty for utilise heading into the changeover area slightly too early. So actually they're P4. They know they're safe in the semis, but you still want to find the pace. They'll want to know why they're not on the pace of those top drivers when they were ahead of everybody last time. So if they've made that settings change, maybe the car feels a bit different and it's just a case of getting used to it.
We're really intrigued to see Christopherson in it, because actually out of the 2 drivers, I think he felt the least confident with that car this morning.
He wasn't happy with his performance, was he? Timo told us that. Timo Scheider is out on site. The male championship driver, Jutta Kleinsmith, the female championship driver, is in position this weekend. Going to see her up next, taking the pace of Claudia Hurtgen. Great drive by Taylor. Maintained that they lost 2 seconds, maybe 3, with a couple of little moments there, but maintained the gap at over 30 seconds.
I like the fact that he said a couple of small moments. It was a whopping moment. Are you kidding me? It was great. This is the action that you will see delivered time after time with Extreme E, no matter where we go. Right. Concentrate into the switch zone. This is the moment. The team looking on. Nico Rosberg, Formula One World Champion in 2016, watches on as well as Taylor comes in agonizingly slowly at 30 kilometers an hour. She'll pull into her bay, which is the one where Christopherson is standing, and as soon as she goes neutral, they can attack.
See so you could actually see there from the onboard camera one of the team members standing at the front of the car, because where Christopherson and the technician who are going to help him get in the car are stood, they can't see the lights on the front. So at the front, the team member looks to see when the lights come on. You actually saw them holding a stopwatch. It sounds quite old school, but wait for the flashing lights, bang the stopwatch on. Then they will wait until the 40 seconds are up before they release the car. Christopherson says yes to Molly. She shuts the door on that side and exits stage left. Christopherson just does a final check. Everything is super relaxed, look, and they're ready to go. Early, nice
Nice angle on the car,
changeover,
though, isn't it? It's interesting because obviously she's come in. It's pointing slightly to the right. Now it needs to go to the left. So off we go. And let's see what Christopherson can do. Is he slightly more comfortable in the car this afternoon? Because certainly Taylor...
I think the kickers are really bad.
The kickers are really bad, she says.
Interesting. So is that a reference to a setting change and now therefore they're bad? You see what I mean? So
I wonder if it's the way that the track's developed.
Has it developed? Now out on site we've got Daniel Abt for us, providing us a bit of on-site analysis. Daniel, RXR are not quite showing the pace that we've seen from them before. Have you been and spoken to the teams at all? You know, Molly was just saying the kickers are really bad.
Yeah, I think it's always a bit difficult to say what exactly the problem is, but obviously we see that the track is changing all the time, so it's very difficult for the teams and drivers to anticipate what they actually need, and temperatures are rising, it's getting very hot also, so it's never the same, and I think that's what makes it so difficult. So of course some runs feel good, some feel bad, and sometimes probably you don't even know if it's the track or the car. I don't think that car changes so much with the possibilities that the drivers and the teams have, so probably it's the track that just develops and gets worse.
What did you read into Molly Taylor's run just then?
Yeah, I mean, it looked a bit difficult from the outside, but still I thought it was a decent run. So I think we have to first see what the others are doing in these conditions and how it goes, if the track gets worse or changes. So for the moment, I think it wasn't as bad as she maybe felt, and let's see how it goes on.
I'm really interested to see whether these guys might, similar position to Molly last time out, a little bit of a kicker for the rear of Christopherson there. In some ways, I'd fancy my chances more in semi-final 2. They're having a little bit of a rough weekend. I mean, Abt Cupra looked really quick. It is close. Between the top 3 teams, there's 30 seconds. The top 4 teams, top 5, in fact. So you could easily just end up in semi-final 2 and think that, you know what, we'll take our advantage there against a couple of teams who are maybe not quite on the pace of Kristoffersen and Taylor. It's hard to know, isn't it? But then you're not going to bet on that, Jenny. You're not going to sandbag and go, we'll aim for semi-2. Nobody does that, not at this level.
No, but look at the time Kristoffersen is managing to find. He is a happy man right now. At the moment with Rosberg looking on, he is doing so much better than he was this morning. I think you're right. Maybe they found something in the car that just is a little bit better for Kristoffersen, some sort of trade-off, because look at that time. They're now almost 42 seconds up.
He's so good, Kristoffersen. He really is. It always fascinates me, people that can drive so many different cars at such a high level to cross over between. Yeah, he very nearly got a drive in DTM, lost an incredible amount of weight for the driver shootout for it. Again, he was a little bit tall for the cars. It's circuit racing champion in many different categories, 3 times a World Rallycross champion, rallying as well. I love a modern day all-rounder. This shot is brilliant as well because it's just showing the commitment. If you get the line right, and that line it's up and down as well as the left and right, isn't it? Drops behind the undergrowth, pops back out the other side with a little bit of opposite lock on, carrying the speed around the outside of the dunes. Fantastic shot.
Is Kristoffersen a man who performs under pressure? Does he thrive in those sort of scenarios? Yeah,
100%. Yeah, whenever you talk to him, you know, it's, oh, how are you feeling? You know, things tough. And he's very clever as well with the television. The Johan that you get when the cameras are on is a little bit different to the Johan when you get when the cameras are off. He's a super pro, but he's also one of the funniest guys I've ever met. He's brilliant. He's a joy to have a chat with, and there is always something going on. He's taking the Carl Leduc approach to this section of track now. He's made up some 15, 20 seconds over the course of this run. They're absolutely flying. This will be against Sarazan Chadwick's time. Going to put them up into P1 by nearly a minute, and I reckon it will be a minute by the time they get to the finish, Jenny.
I think this will make everybody sit up and think, okay, yeah, if we didn't think they were on form this weekend, they certainly are now. They've found their feet, and this is a really interesting group of 3 cars going out. Of course, this is the first one, and then we've got the X40, Abt Cupra, and then X44. So this is one of the toughest little groups of 3 that they're setting themselves against each other. Yeah,
I think this is the key part of the session, isn't it, to see who's going to get that top qualifier spot, who's going to go into semi-1 and semi-2, and who's going to miss out and go into the shootout. If you're in the shootout, there isn't the chance of winning the event. Look at Rosberg, full focus on his driver, Kristoffersen. Taylor got the job done. Johan, look, just chilling now on the run to the line. Minus 52 seconds. They're nearly a minute up. It's going to put them into P1. Where are they going to be at the end of the session? Great drive by the pair of them. Let's have a look and see what the time. It was 11 minutes 10 was the time, and that would have put them this morning. Actually, do you know what? It's slower. It's 8 seconds slower than they went this morning. So they've not gone quicker, but in comparison to the other teams, they're about where they were. I wonder if we might see them in semi-final 2.
That is a surprise, isn't it? But there we go.
Hopefully going to have a chat with Nico Rosberg in a moment about what his thoughts are on the team. I wonder, Jenny, if he might be able to shed us a little bit of light on what was tricky for them earlier on today. Let's hear from team manager Nico Rosberg.
Rosberg X Racing team founder Nico Rosberg, great to be speaking to you now straight after the 2 qualifiers. What's your thought on their runs today?
Oh, it's been a great day here in Senegal. I mean, the track is very, very interesting and exciting once again, so great job with that. Of course, more technical this time, but still some big jumps, so it's quite challenging still for the drivers there out there. Anyways, nevertheless, I think we're going to be in the top 3, it looks like, so that's a promising start to the weekend and gives us all the chances for a fantastic result tomorrow.
You mentioned the course being technical and interesting. It's also ever-changing. How would you face that course?
Yeah, but that's the nature of being in the sand dunes and driving over and over. You just get these grooves, which are massive, and it just makes it very difficult for the drivers out there, because once you hit the groove, you're like stuck in them, and it's a very, I mean, it's called Extreme E, you know, so everything's quite extreme, and got to make the best of it.
Thank you very much.
Now we are look down on the beach. A little crab, unfortunately, several little crabs. Unfortunately, you can see what they are among, and that is one of the issues. Aside from rising sea levels, which we're tackling here, it is the plastic pollution which is washing up on the beach. It's not a Senegalese problem, it's a problem for all of us. And it's one I think we should all be a bit keener to solve. Now, these guys solved a problem yesterday. Claudia Hertgen wasn't very well. So they brought in an absolute weapon of a driver. It turns out that Jutta Kleinsmith is still as sharp as she was when she won the Dakar here 20 years ago. She absolutely killed it, Jenny. It was a brilliant drive.
Yeah, look, you can just hear her putting on the hyperdrive, I think, so she gets a 4-second boost. She was looking down. That's what she was looking for, the button to press it so she could get that extra speed.
I think some of the teams are taking it a bit early. When you've still got wheel spin, if you take it that early point and then you generate more wheel spin, you want to wait until the wheel spin is completely dead and then hit it.
Good tips, good intel. Been speaking to the drivers as they've been coming off of their runs. And Daniel Abt has been sitting nervously, brand ambassador for Abt. And the Formula E man is watching on from Senegal, hoping that his team can do well and get themselves a place in semi-final one.
Jutta's gone green already, plus 8.75 at this point, but will be looking to close that gap down more. Every time it's green means she's going quicker than the car, which is at the top of the leaderboard.
They're just scurrying out of the way at the moment. Jutta trying her hardest to drag this Odyssey 21 round. She knows the course, even though it was a last-minute call-up for Hurtgen and her stomach upset that she's suffering for, but she is trying to close that gap. And you can just see the elevation changes within her seat. Much the same as Chadwick, actually. She's getting pushed around and up and down. Oh, look at that sideways going over the top of that hump at 10. Or she loses the rear end a little bit as well. I think that is just churning up a little bit at that section.
Daniel Abt is watching on, as Jenny has said, out there in Senegal. Daniel, how are you feeling? I mean, your standing driver, Jutta Kleinsmith, doesn't get better than this, does it?
Yeah, I'm super proud. I mean, amazing job she's done so far today already. You know, to get that call last minute, to step in is never easy, but she's proven that she knows how this works. She's done super well. She was smiling after that qualifying. You could tell she was pumped with adrenaline, happy, and still like trying to find ways to improve and pushing and asking questions, and seeing that determination, I think, is just incredible. And if you look at the run now, you can just tell that she's in a happy place.
She really is. And Daniel, what learnings have they had from qualifying 1? What have they been able to do, if anything, to the car to help them in qualifying 2?
Well, it's little tweaks. It's just a bit about what preference kind of, or what kind of style that the drivers have. Of course, between the drivers, sometimes there's a bit of a difference in terms of how you rotate the car and how you want the settings to be. But I think the most important part really is watching lines, because you see that on boards, you can't just go everywhere. It's just all over the place, and some people took different lines, and I think just trying to understand where to go, what is the best place, how do you need to position your car, that's what the focus really lies on.
Daniel, how many teams were looking at the lines that Kyle Leduc was taking in that last session, because he was just lit, wasn't he, through the last few sectors?
Yeah, I guess everyone was. I mean, whenever someone does something exceptional or goes crazy quick, everyone wants to know why. And I'm pretty sure people studied that. And of course, everyone's now trying to copy or replicate what he's been doing. Oh, Jutta is on fire, as we see. Huh?
It's so hard, close, isn't it, for you, Daniel, to be watching this? Is it really tough as a driver? Okay, you don't know these cars, but you know cars, you know racing.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm super excited. I mean, the whole experience being here is great. You know, the last race I was commentating in German TV, and I was already really feeling that it's something good, that it's fun to watch. And I mean, normally in motorsport, you don't watch single cars driving around. Everyone would say, why are we doing this? But here, you just watch single cars, and already it's so exciting. It never gets boring. There's always something happening, and I think it's good that you get impression of what's going on. You know, the cars all over the place. So even if you've never driven a car like this, you can tell it's extreme, and that's what the series is about.
We'll come back to you shortly, Daniel. We're coming into the driver switch zone now. Jutta has had a few green places where she's closing the time down, and a few grey where she's losing a little bit, but the gap's maintained itself around the 10-second mark for most of the second half of the lap. Coming in now, Jenny, to hand over to Matthias Ekström.
Yeah, she's gone nice and wide, using that fresh virgin sand as tide comes in and out, and then she'll cut back in. This is the point where you can make up a bit of time. If you can really nail your braking zone, let's see what she does. Goes a bit early as well, I would suggest, and the car dips down, but she's got to get on that speed limiter. That is really important. You lose a lot of time if you're penalised for going over 30 kilometres an hour. So she's managed that. Now, they did pick up a big penalty last time out, 15 seconds. So let's watch them. Let's watch Ekström, because they need to get this absolutely right in the switch zone.
Yeah, it was a 15-second penalty because she stepped out from behind the barriers before the lights started flashing on the car. So you can't start any part of the process. Look at the team member front right. We were on board there, and you'll see they will say, there you go, you heard the word go. He runs out now, Jutta takes the belts off, struggles to get those up high, reaches out, pulls up the communications cable, going to climb out the car now. There you can see she had the head and neck safety device was caught up on the chair. That's exactly what we were talking about. They're really hard to get in and out of.
There's no dignity, is there, in motorsport?
Absolutely
You've just
not.
got to find a way to get out of
Yeah.
there, whatever it is, and you rub yourself down a little bit later.
Yeah, we saw 9-time World Rally Champion Sebastian Loeb looked like he was skydiving out the side of his car, didn't he? Just bailed. Get it done. Like, it hasn't got to look pretty, it's got to be fast.
Jutta just leaning across to help Matthias, so the two of them get out of the way, car in neutral, and as soon as the 40 seconds is up, off they go.
So it was tight on the turnaround, I would suggest. Ekström didn't have much time to gather his thoughts, but again, he's another driver who, in my experience of him, can operate at a very, very high level and still have capacity to think about other things like tactics and passes and what's going on with the car. He is an extremely cool operator. So close to the flags, and Jenny, I think he's going to drop onto the low sand. He does. Yeah,
gone on to a different line there, dropping on, which means he's got to cut back in. Now, this is where the problem lies, because obviously there's a large ridge there, so you've got to go up and over it, which I think he's managed to do all right, but you can see the rear end just kicking around so much.
Yeah, backing it in a little bit there at the end of the straight. Just holding onto the car, waiting for the weight to transition back the other way and then get on the gas and push. You see the car is constantly switching between oversteer and understeer, where the wheels are facing the direction of travel or not, just hanging onto it. Plus 8.8, so Ekström gone green, closing down that gap now. They were quicker, remember, last time than Taylor Christopherson for RXR. But they got the penalty. So in theory, if they can match that pace that they had last time, they can get themselves up to the top of the table in Q2.
Now, let's have a look to see how badly... Yes, overall, you're right. Let's have a look to see how badly this is churning up, because this is the point that the cars have started to get a little bit sticky around turns and the markers of 10 and 11, and I think this is going to be a crux point as we go through to see how badly... Oh, look how close he is to that gate. That's fabulous.
You got great rotation there last time round, I remember. Dropping, look how deep the hole is at the bottom where the underguard of the car's been digging in.
Yeah, you saw the alternate line there that we saw from Taylor created going through that scrubland.
That's such a big drop now, isn't it, off the top?
Love it.
Picking a line through the middle here. Some of the crests have been smoothened off, and that's where where the cars have gone over in the same line. Now off to the left, look straight over the undergrowth in the middle. I think the line's changed there. It's partly between Q1 and Q2, and they're all going through that slightly off camber section. Look at the railroad through here. You really are on one line with very little choice on the way into the woods. Full throttle and just let the car get dragged out using the ruts. Very similar to driving on snow and ice when you get ruts in that as well.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and gravel to a certain extent as well. You let the car get railroaded. Daniel Abt is still with us out there now. How are you feeling, Daniel? 10 seconds down, about half a lap to go. Ekström could close this down, couldn't he?
Yeah, I think he will. It looks pretty good. He's done a really good first run already. I think he was a bit conservative due to the technical issues we saw with the drivers beforehand. So I think there's still a little bit in it compared to the first run. It looks a bit more aggressive than what we've seen before. Yeah, so I'm pretty confident. In any case, it's been a great run for the team, and they've done a good job. And if Matthias doesn't do any mistake, then I think we can be very happy and satisfied about today.
Yeah, you can see there, Jutta just watching on now in the command center. Daniel, I just wondered, has there been any discussion about which semi-final you'd rather go into, or are you just looking at setting the best time you can?
Yeah, I think definitely you talk about that. I mean, from my perspective now, actually, I think it would be better if we'd be in semi-final 2 because of the way the rules are done. But I know drivers, and drivers are never going to run on target time. So you see Matthias is just, you know, pushing, and you will end up where you will end up. And I think it doesn't make any sense to start, you know, thinking about times while driving, because that's when you make mistakes and things go wrong. But from a strategic point, I think I would not be unhappy if it was semi-final 2, because then the likeliness of being in the final, I think, is even higher.
No, interesting. Thanks, Daniel. That was the thought that we had here. So in a sport which Matthias is very familiar with, rallycross, it's odds to semi-final 1 and evens to semi-final 2, meaning you get a spread of speed throughout those 2 semi-finals. What we're doing here is top 3 to semi-1 and from P4 to P6 to semi-2, meaning that, you know, we're going to lose a very fast driver from the first semi-final, and in theory, if you end up in that second semi-final, it should be an easier run to the final. So I can see that, but Daniel's dead right. They won't be aiming for target times. They'll be aiming for the fastest time possible. 9 seconds down, they're not going to take the quickest time. Taylor and Christopherson are going to remain at the top of the table, but without that penalty that they got, Jenny, for the switch, they would have gone quickest here. So Kleinschmidt and Ekstrom slot in. He did actually take a couple of seconds off on the final straight, maybe use the hyperdrive on the run to the last corner. That was a great drive by Kleinschmidt and Ekstrom. They sit P2 at the end of qualifying, but of course there are 5 cars still to come. Jutta Kleinschmidt took the car first of all. She's in the command centre. Let's go and have a word.
I'm joined now by Jutta, who came in last minute, stepped in as a reserve driver, just finished 2 qualifiers now. How are your feelings?
Great. It's a great pleasure to be part of this championship already, but now I had the chance to jump in, unfortunately, because Claudia got ill. But nice for me, I have a drive in the race. It's a dream come true, because, you know, many years ago I finished the Dakar here as first, and it's such a nice memory to be here, and that I get the chance to drive here again in a really important international race. It's incredible.
You mentioned that you've been here before, of course, that you do sort of know quite well, and now your team are up in 2nd position. How important is that to you?
Yeah, for the moment, you know, still a lot of cars to come. I'm very, very happy with this position. You know, when you step in the last moment, you actually don't know where you are, you know, so I was afraid that I'm maybe too slow. Many years ago, I drove this kind of race cars, and yeah, so I'm very happy where I am, and it's good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I tell you what, we're very happy to have her in the championship, because she is bringing a whole nother level to this team. Look at that, though, the angle on that car as the back end just washes away. Fantastic. And then you just see the refreshing waves as they see the Atlantic and then come towards home on that start-finish straight. What a spectacular place for the Ocean X Prix.
Cars waiting to head out next is X44, Sebastian Loeb, and his teammate Cristina Gutierrez. They were so impressive last time. They're top of the table and they're away. So their time was a 10:47.2. At the minute, that would be 20 seconds quicker than Ekstrom and Kleinschmidt went in this session. Now, the track could have got slower, Jenny, and looking at the times, I would suggest maybe it is slower in places. But Cristina Gutierrez, how impressive was she on her lap in Q1?
Tell you what was interesting as well, so every driver has to alternate with starts, and actually Gutierrez looked pretty decent off the start line then. I was quite impressed with that, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this develops as we go through the weekend and how that strategy dictates where we go with the racing. Yeah,
for me, it's going to be more about, obviously getting off the line is going to be really important. Some people are going to get it right, some will get it wrong. That's a combination of settings and what you do with the throttle as you head off the line. But I think what's going to be really interesting is how do you deal with the racing. And that's what's interesting tactically, isn't it? Is which driver has which team chosen to put in based on do they think what will they do in the starts. Gutierrez and Loeb, I mean, Loeb's done touring cars, world touring cars, so yeah, he's got some starting experience, but I think Gutierrez is well up for some door-to-door action as well.
Yeah, I'd say so, definitely. Gutierrez taking this course and really throttling everything she can. You can see purple sector, they are 14.69 seconds up in the first position at the moment. So really good going out there. Nice pace this afternoon. They're certainly not looking like they're giving any time away anywhere at the minute.
You can hear, listen to the thumps on board when the car lands. You can hear how physical it is. Listen to this. There, you can hear it. You just, and again, the impacts, and that's on the car and on the driver. And part of this is driving the car, Jenny, to the limit, but not to the point where you break it. We heard from Daniel Abt saying the same thing, you know, the Ekstrom had potentially in the first session, after they saw some issues for some of the other teams, they said, you know what, wind it in a bit, let's not have to reset the car out on the course, and then we'll go a bit harder in the second session. On the other hand, we saw Leduc full risk the whole time, no issues at all.
Yeah, you've got to work out what works for you, haven't you, as a driver, as a team. Oh, look at it, the back end just twitching there a little bit, and as you say, banging across those twigs and trees on the left-hand side, those deep ridges, meaning it's impossible, really, to alter the line that you take. It's dictated to you.
You don't want to pop out of those ruts either, Jenny. We haven't seen anyone do it so far, but if you lose the front wheels, if they don't get into those ruts and you jump on the gas, you'll be straight off to the trees on the outside of the corner. Gutierrez coming through.
You can actually see the change in the colour of the sand. Where it's very orangey, that's where it's quite loose and being kicked up and constantly churned over. The lighter coloured stuff, slightly kind of, it's not the bit where it's taking all of the impact from these cars.
Look at her throttle trace at the top right of your screen, how much she's on and off the throttle. Though it's not using the brake at all, she's having to come on there, tiny bit of brake, look, settle the nose. Here, no brake. That's 100% throttle over the crest, dropping into the sand. Now just a bit of brake, bit of gas. She'll have left foot on the brake, right foot on the throttle, and just be balancing the rotation of the car. Also, even in the air, you can change the angle of the car in the air with what you're doing with the throttle and the brake.
Going to the left-hand side of that bush, then she'll hug round, going in through between these flag markers, and this a little bump up.
It's fascinating seeing it on board, Jenny. We're seeing a completely different angle than we normally see through that section. I think you get a much better idea of how little visibility they have over the crests, and there will be a degree here of trying to learn the track, but it's 6 kilometers long. So you're trying to, is this the crest that's flat? Is it not? And they'll have some visual markers for that. Of course, they've also got the numbered gates too. Bit sideways through there for Gutierrez, but at the minute, taking a couple of seconds off. They're extending the margin. It was 15 earlier on. They're on for the top qualifier position, which is why it's pink, bottom right of your screen. Doing a brilliant job.
They had quite a lot of haze this morning out there, and I think it was quite hard to actually see where you were going, to pick out the definition of those dunes and to really understand it, and that light has totally shifted now. So they're dealing not only with a different course because of the sand moving, but the sun moving and coming round. Even the tide coming in makes it feel very different to this morning.
I'm loving this track. Timo Scheider, track designer, I think can be very pleased with himself for this one. The Saudi was great fun, but yeah, this is a brand new series. We're going to learn everywhere we go. I just can't even quite contemplate. There's the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of West Africa. What's it going to look like when we're racing in front of a glacier? I'm so excited for the different venues, and I think as well they're going to tweak the track layouts, and this one is a banger in my opinion.
It's absolutely brilliant, and you know, the messaging behind Extreme is so relevant here. We can see the plastic just lying around on the beach, so these are all things that we're looking to try and highlight. People say, why are you taking a motorsport series to somewhere which, you know, is fragile? It's because this is getting eyes on the problem. It's getting a conversation started, and it's a conversation that's long overdue. Into the switch zone for X44.
Yeah, completely agree with you, Alton, Jenny.
Conversation as well that Lewis Hamilton, who owns this team and founded this team, is so keen to have. He's really into the environmental stuff now. He's into diversity, he's into inclusion, equality. All of these things matter to him, which is why he wanted to get involved in Extreme E.
You know what, they matter to me and to you, and they should matter to everyone. If I'm really honest, I'm like more of a motorsport guy, and that was my initial interest in this series, was, you know, to get to commentate another fantastic series. Couldn't hear what Christina was saying there, but I'm learning as well, and you know, it's okay. I think it's okay to say, you know what, I wasn't really aware of those issues. It's fine. I hope you guys will learn along with us too. Look at that in the background. That's such a great backdrop. Takes the seat insert. little handle on the side of the seat, insert there. I like that detail.
That's clever, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just thinking about, okay, how can we make life as easy as possible? And this is efficiency. That's what motorsport is sometimes about.
And a good way to grab it as well. Remember, they're wearing gloves, so when they reach into the car to try to pull the seat insert out, that little red handle, which you could see, she was able to whip the insert out easily.
So, handing from Gutierrez over to Loeb. Let's see what he can do. He puts the full power on. Will he use hyperdrive now? That's the question. Get the wheel spin out the way, as Andrew said earlier. And look, there's Gutierrez just taking Balaclava off.
You can hear it in the background. You hear the RPM rise immediately. Daniel Apps is out there for us. Look at that, 21.67 up. Daniel, we're pretty confident we can hear that most of the drivers are using hyperdrive on this front straight, the beach straight. You can hear the RPM rise, can't you?
Yeah, definitely, and it's a big difference in power. So it's not like a little boost. It pushes you into the seat. It's a completely different animal all of a sudden. Unfortunately, it's not so long, so then it goes back to normal. I think as a driver, you'd be like, oh, I wish this was longer. But yeah, I think it makes most sense to do it on that first straight. You can always opt to do it on the back straight also, but I think most of the drivers definitely do it after the start once they have the traction.
I was going to say, when's the optimum time in your mind? Do you go from the time or the feel of the car or the distance? Is there a marker point you're looking for?
No, I think as a driver you need to have a feeling of if your car has full grip in terms of is there still traction issues, is there still wheel spin, because you can never tell, you know, after the start is never the same, the track is never the same. So even if you had a marker, things would change. So you as a driver, you need to feel when the timing is right, when the car is ready, and then push that button.
Yeah, that's what we said earlier on, that we felt a couple of the teams were taking it slightly too early. If you can still hear the RPM peaking, that's likely to be a bit of wheel spin. Loeb late on the brakes, chucks the X44 machine nose heavy off the crest. Now, if they take this session, I'm trying to see how far up they were. They were 4 seconds up the road from Segi TV Chip Ganassi, so it's definitely not done until we see that car head out on track. RXR were a further 12 seconds back. So at the minute, I think this is going to be a two-car fight for the top qualifier spot between X44 and Segi TV Chip Ganassi. It would be a second top qualifier spot for X44. It would be a hell of a comeback from Chip Ganassi, Jenny. So thank you, Daniel. It's a great story for us either way, isn't it?
Absolutely, certainly is. Just look at Loeb and look at the time. You can see almost 24 seconds up now, definitely in the first place. So this is a real battle. It's a real fight between these big guns that we have, the big team players that we have, and it's going to be fascinating. This car, the next car, will be a huge call.
Right, Loeb's just gone quickest in the first sector, and that's a whole bunch of the flags, the waypoints that you can see around here. You can see he's nearly 25 seconds up, but he's gone quickest of anybody so far in this session. He is on a mission through here, threading the eye of the needle. That's the camera that got taken out earlier on today.
Almost did it again.
Yeah, about as close as you can get. I reckon the camera's been moved back a bit, Jenny, definitely. Over the crest. Look at the inputs. It's super smooth despite the car being thrown around. Braking hard, pops up over the crest. We've seen people attack that a little bit harder. Loeb, though, may be looking for the traction immediately afterwards. If you're in the air, you can't put the power down. It's about whether carrying the speed over the crest is better or getting the car on the ground earlier and accelerating away is quicker.
Yeah, at the moment, the fastest time is set by Rosberg X Racing, Molly Taylor and Johan Kristoffersen, but this looks like it's going to smash it.
Yeah, this looks like somebody's been studying where Sebastian had his eyes, didn't he, on Kyle Leduc. He said that. He said in his interview, Kyle Leduc and Sarah Price look really quick. Daniel Apps said to us earlier on, everybody will have been watching that section. We've looked at the intermediates for in between each of these waypoints, and it was Leduc's run was insane.
He was certainly on a mission. He went fastest in so many of those mini sectors. It'll be fascinating to see how Loeb is in comparison to that in this run compared to that. And of course, we have that Segi TV Chip Ganassi Extreme E racing car coming up next. Oh, look, Gutierrez looks really nervous. They know that it doesn't matter what it says on the screen. Yes, they're up 27 seconds at the moment, but what comes next is what matters, and she can't do anything about that.
No, Loeb's done a brilliant job. So has Gutierrez. They're looking on for the top qualifier spot, 27.8 seconds up as they come down to the finish line. flat out over it, and they go P1.
Oh, he carried some speed.
Massive margin. But it's the people that are up next they've got to watch out for. It's Sarah Price and Carl Leduc for Chip Ganassi, Segi TV. Can they do anything to stop Loeb and Gutierrez taking that top qualifier spot? It's a brilliant drive by them. Let's hear from Cristina Gutierrez, who is in the command center now.
Cristina, you've completed your qualifiers in place in P1 with 27 seconds. Fantastic run. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I feel good at the moment. We need to see the rest of the teams. It's soon to say something, but I'm happy to see this job, because especially this lap, it will be really, really tough for everyone. Sorry. So we'll see in a few moments. And
what were your emotions out on the course? Because we know it's changing and developing quite a lot.
Yeah, all the time you need to stay on the wood line, because it's getting worse each time. So it's a track difficult.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We wouldn't make it too easy for anybody, would we? First team to dip under 11 minutes. Congratulations, first place at the moment, Gutierrez and Loeb. First up in this second qualifying session, it was the Rosberg team, Rosberg X Racing. Now, this driver combination, a very strong one. Molly Taylor taking to the wheel, and then Johan Kristoffersen. You can see the plastic on the beach just getting kicked up as the car comes through.
They'd struggled a little bit in Q1, and it was interesting to see what they would do in Q2. Was it just a case of being a bit more committed and taking more risks, or was there something they could dial into the car? And looking at some of the kickers that Molly got on her run, Jenny, we wondered if they'd made some settings changes to the car. We'll find out tonight. We'll do our homework and message the team and the personnel and find out exactly what it was they'd done. But Molly even took the time when she came into the changeover area to say to Johan, the kickers are really bad. I wonder if we're going to see that here. There you go, we are. Look at, oh, I tell you what, that's as close as anyone's come to rolling today. We've seen a lot of cars with the rear end kicked up high, but not landing sideways. It's the landing sideways that gets you in trouble.
Yeah, and that's the problem, isn't it? Because you've got that snap with the steering wheel. You can see it again here. And what Molly is having to do in that car to steady it, it's a heavy car as well, so you've really got to hope that that comes out the right way.
She had a tiny bit of left lock on and gunned the throttle and pulled the car back down flat. You know, that takes some serious skill when you're at that point. But from the look on her face, obviously we knew it was unplanned, and we knew it was a little bit on a wing and a prayer to get it back. So they took some risks. They went a little bit quicker than they'd gone earlier on, but I don't know that it's going to be enough to take the top qualifier spot.
Yep, next up, it was the Abt Cupra car with Jutta getting into the hot seat in terms of Claudia Hertgen, who should have been there. She's got an upset stomach, though, so Jutta Kleinschmidt, championship driver, steps in, and what another remarkable job she did along this beach line in Senegal. Fantastic opportunity for her to show all of the teams looking on what she could bring next season.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what her contractual situation is with the way she has performed here. Has been brilliant. She's obviously really enjoyed it too. That was what we loved. We spoke to her in an interview. Look at that, kicking the rear of the car up, as committed as she was 20 years ago when she won the Dakar Rally. The only woman to have done so in the car category, and just an amazing performance. So yeah, she's championship driver. Will she get snaffled for next year by a team?
Will she get snaffled this year? You never know.
You don't, do you?
X44 taking to the track next. Lewis Hamilton's team, Cristina Gutierrez, Sebastian Loeb, showing just what they can do around the sand in Senegal. It was a masterclass. It was beautiful. However, it doesn't matter how fast they go, because they're not in control really of their own destiny. They've done all they can. It may be up to others, though, to see whether they get that fastest spot or they'll be edged out.
Indeed, X44 doing everything they could do, finishing about 30 seconds up, but all eyes were on the cars that were still to come. Brilliant performance by all the teams so far in Q2.
We're here at the Ocean X Prix, and you can see there in the virtual sea, it is the St. Helena, and that is the place where all the cars have been travelling and transported to Lac Rose. Nobody's been able to work on them until they touch down, and then it was a big mission for some of the teams. Not too much for some of the others, but it's nice to know that some of them have been working together to make sure that they could take part. Veloce and also the Abt Cupra teams working together to make sure that this weekend was a successful weekend for them.
Chip Ganassi, another squad that needed to work on the car after that huge crash at the end of the event in Saudi Arabia. Kyle Leduc running into the back of Claudia Hurtgen in the Abt Cupra machine, and bless him, going straight over to apologise afterwards, saying, "I'm so sorry, I hit you so hard." He was on the radio saying, "Was she stopped?" Him and Sarah Price, we knew they were quick. The team have worked so hard to get that car back together, and now we're seeing that they really are fast.
30 seconds.
At the voice of Scott Elkins, here's our race director. He's the man up there in control of it. And you can see qualifying leader. It says on the right-hand side, X44, but can this next car do anything to change that, to change their fortune?
15 seconds, 15
In my opinion,
seconds.
this is the only car that can do anything to take away the top qualifier spot and championship points. Remember, 12 to the top qualifier, 11 to P2 and so on. You know what, though? It's not about that. It's about laying down a marker and saying we're fast enough to win, we are a threat, and we will take it to you.
Right, Carl Leduc should be in the car first. Last time he went out and he chased them down. He chased that time down, and Sarah Price was in first. This time they swap around because each time they get in the car they have to swap driver. So Kyle Leduc, what can he do? What can he set down? Is the gauntlet going to be thrown as he takes that line right by the edge of the sea?
Yeah, everybody heading off to the left-hand side now to try and take just a little bit of extra pace. And already goes green. So Kyle Leduc with a great start down the beach straight, going to go through the cut now and onto the infield, pops it up over the crest there and just lifts a wheel. Look at that, firing the sand up into the air in the background. 2.6 green again as he passes through the next waypoint. Let's see if Leduc can start to close it down even more. 1.5. He's barely 3 sets of flags in. He's gone green everywhere. He's on it, Jen. He's on it.
He certainly is. He's so exciting to watch. You can just feel the Americans whooping and hollering, and why not? This is an all-American team, the Chip Ganassi racing team, the Indy 500 this weekend, and a lot of eyes will be on what these guys can do as a kind of precursor to that.
And they've just gone pink at the bottom of the screen, meaning they're on for the top qualifier spot. So at the moment, they would be ahead of X44. But don't forget, this is a combined drive between Leduc and Sarah Price, who's going to be in the car next. Leduc's going to come in and give Sarah the best chance he possibly can of heading out, and Sarah taking the top qualifier spot with him. Look at it, full push.
Yeah, command centre is going to be a nervous place right now with Sarah watching on. You've also got in there our leaders, X44, Sebastian Loeb watching on with Cristina Gutierrez.
So late on the brakes over the crest. He's up 3.5 seconds already. Now, we were having a chat in between sessions with some of the rest of the crew here. My hero, the guy who inspired me to get into motorsport, was Colin McRae. If you don't know who he is, Google him. Watch some onboards, watch some crashes. He was very much win it or bin it. And Kyle Leduc's driving style reminds me of that maximum attack commitment that we used to see from McRae. You know, for me, Leduc can be that. No!
Oh.
No! Oh. No, the car has stopped when they were 6.3 seconds up.
He looked to go and release his seatbelt straight away. I wonder if he knows what's happened already. Is he going to look for a puncture?
What? Why is he out? He reaches out the car. He's reached to the front of the car. Has he reached then? I think that's an external off switch, and maybe they know that that was an issue before. He reached around to the front of the screen. Now, in most motorsports, that's the location for the extinguishers and the reset switch. Takes the wheel off.
This is
no.
What
just Jenny, we've just seen him go green in every single sector. He was smashing it. And now he's having to take on the role of mechanic. He was one of the team who fixed this car. He was putting the rear suspension back together himself 2 days ago.
I tell you what, though, Andretti United Extreme E will be sitting there going, is this our opportunity? They needed misfortune for somebody else. Is this the piece they needed to get themselves into one of the semi-finals? We'll have to watch and see, but heartbreak. And command centre is such a good idea, isn't it? And it's a fascinating insight into just the difficult times of being a driver in these cars, how hard it is.
He's putting the gloves back on, which would suggest he's going to try to go again, but he's got to put all the belts and everything back on. Is he undoing the communication? Sarah Price will be absolutely devastated. She would have gone from full adrenaline. Right, what's he looking for?
Is he looking to find the kill switch?
Yeah, that's what I thought. So normally where he is now, that would be... No, he's opening the hood. So he's opening the... No, there's a reset button underneath, surely. That was what I thought. Remember, this is what we were saying. Right, get back to it. Calm ourselves down. Motorsport. On the front of the car, normally at the bottom of the A pillar is a button for the extinguishers and a button to cut the power to the car, regardless of whether it's a petrol car or an electric car. And I think that was his first go-to spot to reset the car. He's now been out the car. He's been in the footwell on the right-hand side. Now he plugs back in. Let's see if he talks to the team.
No power to the car at all. Try the two behind the rear, above the doors.
So he said go behind the two.
Yeah, go to the two at the rear.
Doors, so
maybe there are more cut-off switches. So this is Kyle Leduc on that massive push. He's flat out, look. Drops in here, nothing, into the woods. This is through the railroad section where we'd said, and then it just dies. So that's just after the section, Jenny, that we've been saying that you chuck it into the ruts and just pull the car through.
Didn't we say this was going to be an all or nothing for him? And you've got some of these cars have shown that a kicker can really affect it.
He's belted back up. He's belted back up to go. This might come down to whether or not they lose more or less time than Andretti lost on their first run. Got to put the wheel back on and get going.
Let's see. Can he get some power to this car?
And what will the difference be at the end? Come on, let's get going.
Sarah willing him on all the way, looking on.
The thing is, Jenny, you know, I totally agree with you. You've got to drive to the limit of what the car can do. But with the style that Leduc has, I could take it. If he'd rolled the car, you could take it. But yeah, we can hear it maybe resetting.
So let's go down. Lena and Lee there in the command centre. He's got it going.
Go ahead, you've got to run, I'll talk to our team here. If you could just walk us through what just happened.
Can we maybe have just a couple minutes?
Go for it.
Okay, so that's they want to focus on what's happening with Carl Leduc and Sarah Price. They're plus 3 minutes 51. I'm looking down and trying to see how far back the Hansen squad, Hansen and Mullings were with Andretti United.
This is going to be tight, isn't it? It's going to be very tight to see which of them can actually post the time. So let's see what... Right, Leduc needs to refocus. He's got to concentrate on what he can do now. We know he's a specialist when it comes to chasing down a time. That's what he's got to do now that the car seems to be going again.
There's some funny old noises coming from the car, definitely from the onboard, but that he's not going to care as long as it can still do green sectors. Look at the bottom of the screen. He's on green sectors compared to the left-hand side. So Mullings, Hansen, Andretti United, plus 4 minutes 12.21. They need to be ahead of that, definitely, and still we've got to see the results at the end of the session to see if they can make it. I'll be gutted if they don't, because I want to see Leduc and Price go at it in the semi-finals and the final against the other teams. Look how quick he is.
Look at him go through this section. This is his speciality moment in this track because he is just so good at this point. He manages to get something out of the car that other people don't seem to be able to do. So, concentrate. Sarah Price will now be looking on. It'll be fascinating at the switch zone to find out if they can do anything or if Sarah's just going to jump straight in.
I'm trying to figure... Oh, over the centre of that crest. I'm trying to figure out what the noise is. It sounds like tyre rubbing somewhere on the bodywork, but that's not the issue for why he stopped. We'll listen in for Leduc when he swaps over to Price at the end of this run. I can't believe it, Jenny. Just as we're bigging them up as like the full send pairing out there, they get a horrible fault like that.
Tell you what though, this could be a blessing in disguise because it could put them into semi-final 2, which could put them into the final, which could still see them win. So there is a way back for them. Got to remember, Extreme E is extreme on every level. Points up for grabs here, 12 for the person that sets the fastest time, but that's not what it's about 100% right now for this team.
Never give up. We've said it already today. We know that Hansen and Mullings for Andretti United didn't. Now we're seeing the same for Leduc and Price. Coming into the switch zone, really, really keen to hear what Kyle Leduc says to Sarah Price that the car is still fast. There's no doubt about that. He's taken more time off the drivers who've been out before him since the car stopped.
Very tough for this team. Very tough for Sarah Price to have to watch that, but she is standing by. The car goes into neutral, so outrun Sarah. Oh, it's a bit of a dive down. She needs to open the door. The adrenaline really running high. Let's listen in.
Take your time, take your time. No pressure. So the car was making a lot of noise in the back, so...
Making a lot of noise in the back.
I love how calm he is about that. Just, you know, basically just a warning, the car's making a lot of noise. Engineers looking into the rear of the car. They may well then say to Sarah, look, it's this, it might break, or it's this, don't worry, it won't. How's a look on the rear right now? Door down, Sarah Price ready to go.
It's go. She's just got to go for it and see what happens. And I'm sure we will get a little bit of information from Kyle Leduc as soon as we can. I heard Layla and Lee down there, our pit lane reporter, so I'll try and get a word with him. But right now, for Sarah Price, let's see if she uses the hyperdrive down this.
We're going to head down and have a catch-up. Let's hear from the man himself, Kyle Leduc, going to tell us what happened.
Kyle, sorry to catch you really quickly now. Heartbreaking because you were making an amazing run until the car stopped there. Walk us through what happened and how did you fix it?
We're all mechanics on this team, so there's only a couple little parts that tell it not to run. So we just had to eliminate the obvious and push some buttons and play with some electronics to get it running. So.
Do you know exactly what the problem was, and has it been eliminated now as she goes out on the course?
Yeah, she should be fine. It's just downtime. So.
We heard a really loud scraping noise as well. Can you tell us what that was?
Yeah, it looks like the rear mud flap is just tucked up under the tire. No big deal. But at first I thought maybe an axle or something suspension-wise, but it's all good. Just bummed for the team.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh, Kyle Leduc, upset, disappointed for the team. That noise, though, he's saying not a problem. It's just the mud flap that's caught up there, so they're not too worried about that. He reckons Sarah can go out there and set a time, and look at that. They would go into 5th place as things stand right now. That would mean a place in semi-final 2.
Yeah, and that's not a bad place to be. It does depend, of course, where, well, I think at Cooper are probably going to end up as a result into semi-final 1. I'm just looking to see who's still to come. JBXE, they were in P5 after the previous session. And, of course, Science. Excite Energy Racing, of course, they were in... Where were Excite? They were in P7. It's still to play for, Jenny, because we've now got 2 teams that have had issues, and we've got a team with a DNF, so there is a chance they won't make it.
I mean, this car sounds horrible as it's going through, but I tell you what, she's doing a really, really steady job, a good job with it, and all she's got to do is focus on getting this car to the end.
Sarah had an absolute shocker in between the 2 events. She went down and did the Sonoma Rally, and they battled issues the entire event. One night they pulled an all-nighter to get the car going. She finished and actually ended up winning the class. So she didn't even realise she won the class. I think they were the only ones in the class to finish. But really, really trying hard now. It was a challenging weekend in Saudi, a challenging weekend for her last rally, and they're going green again. So she was closing the gap down. Just got to do their best and hope that they end up in the top 6 at the end of the session.
They'll be absolutely exhausted after this. Not only is this a demanding and punishing course to go round, but with an issue like this, you know, you heard Kyle say we're all mechanics. Well, thank goodness he had the nous to get out and work out what was going on. Then he could speak to the team and resolve it. This could be a fascinating twist in this competition. We thought they were going to go straight through, maybe P1, P2, but actually they've got a real chance now of winning this event. They might not collect the most amount of points for today, but I still fancy them.
I'm really hoping they're going to make it. That's my main concern, is whether or not they're going to make it through, because in P7 you had Excite Energy Racing, and they haven't had any issues. So Excite Energy Racing might move up into P6. Their run, of course, is still to come, and we've seen issues, Jenny. So Excite, though, will know that they can cruise around a little bit and not lose 3 minutes, but it's hard to call at this point. Stay with us, because you're going to find out at the end of the session, but I'll be gutted if they don't make it, because I just wanted to see Kyle go wheel to wheel with 4 cars with the attitude and the speed of them, and Sarah Price too. That It's great to have an all-American squad here. It's great to see people with off-road racing come and show how crucial that experience is. Again, how many teams now are going to be looking to America going, you know what, maybe we need to look at the guys and girls who are doing the Bajas and see who we sign up from there.
I go all-out truck racing because they have phenomenal talents that they can bring their skill set across to this track, and it works. That's not to say this is going to be the style, of course, when we go on to our next venues, but right now, right here, you can see Price with that green sector just slips off a little bit. She was catching, now she's just slipping back. It's always updated, always live.
You can hear that tyre rubbing away on the mud flat at the back of the car. They are 3:57 down, but at the minute they're on to beat Andretti United. They will beat Sainz Acciona Sainz, because they had a DNF. So that puts them into P7. It's going to come down to what happens with JBXE and Excite Energy Racing, who are to follow. They've done everything they can do, just like Andretti United did. Sarah Price coming down to finish what was a super committed run by both her and her teammate Carl Leduc. Gutted for them to have had the issues when they were looking so fast. So we're hearing maybe some issues with the car. We heard from Carl Leduc saying about what he'd been looking at on the car.
Yeah, so this car, super speedy, super smart, but an issue for them, just problematic. Oh, such frustration for the team. So JBXE team getting ready to head off. It was Kayla Arlen-Kostelinski first out of the blocks. Car digs in a little bit, but she gets some traction. Just see how relaxed she is, but she uses her hyperdrive early on in this section and goes really fast along that beach stretch.
Yeah, a little bit of a green sector on the run down towards the first corner. It was very much a question of what would the tactics be for these guys. At this point, they would have known that some of the other teams had issues, Jenny, so then you could say, okay, do we go absolutely flat out here and see if we can climb the leaderboard, or do we avoid some of those bigger bumps? Now, we can't prove that the bigger bumps have caused issues for the other teams, but when you're looking at their runs and going, you know what, a couple of these cars had issues after a big hit, then you have to go, I think we can manage that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about making sensible decisions and sitting down as a team and working out what's best for them. And they've done a good job, I think, when it comes to figuring out their strategy.
Arlen-Kostelinski working very hard on the wheel. Apparently they'd made some settings changes to make the car a little bit easier to drive. Kayla heads back out the switch zone. Kevin Hansen jumping in.
Off we go. That's what he's saying. Get going. I don't think the clock was working properly, so he had to do the manual signal, but Kevin Hansen gets out there, gets going, treats the car with a bit of respect, treats the course with a bit of respect, and posts a really decent time.
Yeah, certainly over the big crest dips that we see at the start of the course around waypoints 10 and 11. There you go, you can see just a little bit more tentative off the top, and that wasn't because he's not willing to go for it. That's because they know that if they don't have a tech issue, they're through to the semi-finals. Clever tactics from the JBXE squad. And then Kevin, towards the end of the lap, for me, looking as committed as we've seen him, nicely through this very fast rhythm section.
I love the fact that they're using strategy, and that equally, when your brother's competing, you're competing against them. When they're teammates, it's totally different, but they've got a whole different mindset this weekend. Brother and brother going against each other. Here they are, posting a time that delivers them a 4th place into semi-final 2. That should be good enough, and it should set up a thrilling chance for them to go into the final tomorrow.
You've got a nice big smile on your face. Tell me your emotions. Might just need to take that.
We had a good run, and we've improved the car quite a lot for this run, so we feel confident. And I mean, now, if I'm not wrong, we can choose our starting position for the crazy race, which is going to be epic. So this is just exactly where we wanted to end up.
You had a change of teammates with Kevin Hansen stepping in for Jensen Button. How's the dynamics been?
I mean, Kevin and I have known each other since we were like, I don't know, 12, I'd say. So, yeah, we've been in the national team together, so we know each other well. And it's unfortunate that Jensen, but I mean, he has so much on his table to handle. But he's doing a good job from LA. And, yeah, great work with Kevin. Super happy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So time for qualifying 2. Continue the command centre. You can see there highlighting the issues that we face with warming of the oceans and the continuing growth of plastic. 8 million pieces of plastic polluting into the ocean on a daily basis. Hard to even fathom, isn't it? But our next car is up and ready to go. It is the Excite Energy Racing team.
Christina GZ off the line. Now these, Christina GZ and Ollie Bennett were in P7 at the end of Q1. Coming into this, they will have seen the issues for Chip Ganassi's squad, and they'll know, won't they, that the chances are they're going to make it.
If they don't have an issue.
That's the low-down camera, so don't take too much notice of that in terms of visibility. That will be the wind coming off the sea, whipping up the sand down at floor level. You can see that further up, there's better visibility.
Yeah, it is interesting. The wind does seem to have picked up a little bit this afternoon, and certainly later on into the afternoon. I wonder if that's causing any issues just on this stretch when they're by the straight. That sea breeze coming in, be delightful if you're sunbathing, but maybe not ideal for car handling.
No, definitely not. Through the cut and into the infield section. It's the next section of the track which I think offers the biggest jeopardy in terms of either having a shunt or having a big impact on the car and affecting it through the moguls. Oh, I wondered there just for a second. She was off the throttle for so long, I thought there had been an issue. Not so.
I feel like she's being a tiny bit more tentative, and maybe that again is a strategy call, that they don't feel that they need to push it. But we saw her being much more aggressive this morning from our point of view. Anyway, that's how I'm calling it.
Well, they're plus 15 on the previous car, so really they can take it easy. Let's see if we can have a chat with Katie Munnings on site. Katie, this is heartbreaking for you, I know, because you guys are sitting in P7 now, which means you're going to end up in the shootout. But from the point of view of the other teams, she's not taking it as easy as I thought. We think they're possibly taking it a little bit easier in the hopes they don't have the kind of technical issue maybe you guys had.
Yeah, I think, you know, these weekends it's endurance events, isn't it, really? It's very easy to go out and try and be on it from Q1 and free practice, but actually with this kind of off-road racing, it really is about making it, as we've seen. No one can predict the technical issues that's, you know, been out there today, so of course it's no one's fault from that sense, and, you know, some cars have handled the bumps and the jumps perfectly. I think it's just a bit of luck at the end of the day as well, but to be honest with you, I think, you know, as you say, they're probably thinking, okay, we've got this, and it is so easy to make not even a mistake. Even sometimes when it feels like you're not pushing as much, these bumps feel even harder in the car and have a bigger reaction. So it does seem not very consistent from that sense. The track is constantly changing, but for us, when we were there, you know, there was no way we could have made almost 4 minutes back on a lap, so there was nothing to win on the time. It was just about getting our car around for Q2 and then seeing what happened to the rest of the field.
I think it's fair to say, Katie, looking at the fact that you guys were so strong last time in Saudi Arabia, but after having a puncture, we've seen the Sainz Acciona squad who qualified really high again in Saudi. You've both had issues here. I think in terms of the long game, the championship, most teams are going to have a bad weekend. So I guess you and Tim have got to reset now and see what you can salvage from the shootout tomorrow and maybe even the super sector.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, it's not over till it's over, and you know, we've still got some points to fight for tomorrow. And yeah, I think it's, as you say, each championship's going to be different. I feel like the first 2 events have been on sands. That's what we expect from the whole championship in Extreme now. But actually, you know, we're moving away from this terrain and going into very different terrains, which I think will probably suit me and Timmy better, because we haven't actually had any sand experience apart from these races. So compared to the people that do the sort of long distance rallies like Dakar, it's very different to another discipline, and obviously they're masters of these kind of terrains and reading them and the changes that happen. So I think, yeah, as you say, absolutely each team will have their moments through the year, and we'll just take what we've learned from it in setup and all of the other things and take it forwards for the rest of the year.
Just quickly, Katie, we know that the legacy project here, one of the things is planting new mangrove trees, and you did that the other day. How was it?
It was incredible, actually. We got to chat to the locals, and they were sort of saying you know, not just was it good for the environment and providing habitats for loads of different fish as kind of nurseries when they're growing up. It's more from the local side as well. They were saying during the pandemic, and you know, there wasn't a lot of income around. This project and this legacy program actually provided jobs for people, so they were able to send their children to school here at a time that was obviously very difficult for everyone. So it was really positive hearing that, and it was really nice to actually see some of the country as well, rather than just going away racing and being stuck to onboards or being at the track and then the accommodation.
Yeah, so much of the time a racer's life is literally going to an airport, getting to a track, going home basically, and staying in a hotel. Katie, we'll join you again in a moment. Thank you so much for your insight. Always fascinating to talk to you. Kind of feel like you want to give her a big hug, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I know Katie's going to be feeling pretty rough right now. And look, I think it's fair to say there are 6 drivers and a number of team members who are feeling the same way. Actually own a Science, Segi TV, Chip can actually racing. You just don't want it. You'd almost rather go out in a blaze of glory. You know what I mean? If you've gone full send and you've ended up binning it, okay, fine. We tried, it didn't work. But technical issues as a driver and the technicians too, because they'll be looking at the car and going, did we do something wrong? They probably didn't. It's probably just your turn for some bad luck, but that's not easy to take. It's not easy to take.
Right, Oliver Bennett, his turn to get into the car. Christine GZ has done her role for the day. She has finished her duties now. All she can do is sit back and watch exactly what Ollie Bennett can do. Can they get themselves into a decent position?
Underfloor guards there hanging off, nothing too major there. That's the one that goes from the rear wishbone up towards the floor of the car. Struggling to get Ollie's belts done up.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the sea whipping up in the background. What a beautiful shot that is. Just shows the juxtaposition of racetrack.
I thought that was long, Jenny, and actually they still had some time left. It wasn't the greatest change, was it? But they've got it done.
Right, let's go down to the switch zone and get an interview. The lady that's just got out of the car, Christine GZ. Fascinating to hear from her.
Christine, you've completed your qualifiers. Ollie's out on the course now. How do you feel?
Really sketchy right now. It's very, very harsh. So I just literally, I saw so many people that the car switched off and stuff. I just tried to get the car back, really. We, of course, are not on the pace, so we are just working on our own pace right now and just, you know, trying to learn each time and just get better.
Thank you very much.
Gracias a ti.
Well, they've got more time to learn that, haven't they? Because at the moment, they're going to go through to the semi-finals. All they've got to do is get round, and they know they'll be ahead of the 3 teams that have had issues. Of those teams, really, at the moment, of course, yeah, it's only, isn't it? It's only Leduc and Price that could benefit if there was a problem. They're in P7. If these guys finish, they will go down to P7. They will be watching now and just thinking, are they going to have an issue as well? Could we maybe get away with this still?
Yeah, because of course Acciona this morning, Carlos Sainz and Lea Sanz having a technical problem with the car. They said that the water pump had gone, so for them it was no result at all, and that's so costly for them. I mean, they've got no hope of going anyway, but they can collect points and they can potentially, you know, get a super sector.
I was going to say, that would be my aim now. If I was Sainz or Sands in this next run, they know they can't make it through whatever happens thanks to that DNF. So I think you've got to go for it, Jenny. You've got to dial that car in for absolute maximum pace through the middle sector and see if you can bag 5 championship points.
But it's this bit which has got to be so unforgiving on the car. You can see Ollie Bennett there, and I think that's got cut up as we've gone through the day. So if you set your time as super sector earlier on today, I think you probably had the best of the run of it.
Oh, I do agree. I think it will be much harder to set it now. And of course, don't forget they can set it again tomorrow. So there's an option to get it tomorrow. But if you were a team and you were looking to salvage as much as you could from the weekend, I suppose you'd be looking and saying, could we dial the car in for that bumpy section and see if we could get it through there? But yeah, I agree that the track is not in the, it's not optimal, Jenny.
And they're not going to go out there tonight with, you know, a nice tractor and make it all flat like in Speedway. That doesn't happen here. The ridges stay, everything stays for tomorrow. So this course is evolving in every single moment of the day.
I'd say Bennett hasn't lifted much on this run. We've seen the front end of the car dig in several times. Still trying hard.
is the section where the most of the sand is. It's just lying there. You can really dig into it, but actually Ollie tackling that really nicely. No green sectors at the moment, but P6, that would be an important moment for them. It means they would go through into the second semi-final, and that gives them a chance still to go through into the final tomorrow.
Yeah, 2 cars going through from that second semi-final, and I think we need to see the lineup, don't we? Once we see the lineup, I think we'll have a better idea. At the moment, yeah, but if they go through to P6, look, yeah, it will be JBXE versus Veloce versus Excite Racing. That will actually be, I think that's hard to pick which 2 will go through.
Yeah, and I think those are teams that have all got, they've got so much to play for, haven't they? Because they've all got a learning curve, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. I'm trying to figure out who's going to take the start for them in the semi-final. Where is my note
What, from
that?
the JBXE?
So, yeah, JBXE, it will be... Who will it be? Kevin Hansen. For Veloce, it will be Jamie Chadwick. And for Excite, it will be Ollie Bennett. So... I mean, Kevin Hansen and Ollie Bennett are no strangers to rallycross starts. Jamie Chadwick is no stranger to taking taking the lead into turn 1 in W Series. You can't pick it there, can you? That's gonna be very interesting. Then we get on to the second driver, so Sarazan coming in after Chadwick.
Do you know what? And the discipline for tomorrow is so different to the discipline today. That's why I like this Extreme E setup, because today it's a single car. You're there, you concentrate on what you're doing. You can learn the track a little bit more. You can get it into your head. But then, come tomorrow, you've got people around you. It gets very busy, and then you can't pick the line you want. You have to go with the flow.
I think we're all excited to see tomorrow as well, because it's quite clear there is a lot less dust here than there was in Saudi. I think we're in a situation where you could see the second driver jump in and still challenge. You could see a mistake at the switch zone make a difference. You're not going to see 30-second gaps tomorrow. Absolutely no way. Bennett drops the car down onto the wet sand on the run down to the finish. No issues, though. They're going to finish a fair way off the pace, but it books them into P6, and that is where they needed to be. So I'm pretty confident that is your semi-final sorted. Leduc, Price, Munnings, Hansen, Sainz and Sands all having issues. I think that's the top 6 sets. Still Sainz and Sands to come on their qualifying run. Last car in Q2, Acciona Sainz. It was Leia Sands in the car off the line. So disappointing for these guys to have had a DNF in Q1, which meant that really there was no chance of them making it through to the semi-finals. Being the last car, they knew nobody else had had a DNF or an issue, but they had one thing to aim for. Now, Leia Sands had an opportunity at it on the first lap. That was the super sector, but it fell to Carlos Sainz on his lap, didn't it? We're still seeing Leia at the minute to have a really big push at it.
Yeah, problem for them earlier on in qualifying 1, water pressure issue that they couldn't get resolved, so that was a bit of a problem, but they did well as a team. Only 8 of them allowed to work on the car. They've managed to get it back out to give the team a chance to get this super sector points. So Leia Sands out there just kind of warming up the car, getting it ready, getting it to the optimum moment, where maybe she can hand it over to Carlos Sainz and see if he could set this super sector.
Yeah, Leia still learning the ways of 4 wheels, coming from a motorcycle background, absolute weapon on a motorcycle. But Carlos Sainz, of course, winner of the Dakar Rally, a World Rally champion, and up for those 5 championship points very much. Have a look in a moment, you'll see how hard he pushed. He pushed the whole way through Sector 1 just to try and get a feel for the car. When he got into Sector 2, Jenny, it was fireworks.
Absolutely was. He knew very clearly what the target was.
You can hear from Leia Sands saying she didn't want to make any mistakes. Taking it easy, it was important, but it was about Carlos. This was him entering the super sector.
That target was a 1:58.91, set by Kyle Leduc earlier on in the day for the Segi TV Chip Ganassi Racing team. So, fixed on the target. And this is Carlos Sainz, I have to say, at his very best, showing you how comfortable he is around the sand of Senegal, a Dakar expert, and just look at the focus.
Yeah, when we saw this live, it was absolutely brilliant. He was so late on the brakes. You can watch for here how late he goes on the brakes before the dips. Late, drop it in on the gas, and then the rear of the car fired up or down 3 times. For me, it was later in the super sector, which you'll see in a minute. It's so rutted up, Jenny, flew that crest massively, and that was when we said, okay, right, yeah, he really is trying.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw very similar in Saudi Arabia from Carlos Sainz, actually, where he was really attacking, going for it. This morning, even when they had the failure, you could see that they were really in good, fine form, working together as a team and pushing it. Didn't work out for them that time, but look at this. Could they get the super sector? That was what everybody was looking at, the paddock, all watching at the timing screens.
Yeah, question marks over whether tomorrow, when there are more cars on course, potentially if you're the lead car, you might be able to get it done. But today, I think, was the best opportunity. This corner very rutted up, and I think a great indication of just how hard he was trying is how much the car was moving around underneath him. Through here, Jenny, there was absolutely, this was the onboard. Have a look at this.
It's absolutely wonderful to see this number 55 car so aggressively transported along the sand and getting the air there. Just really focused, concentrated driving from Carlos Sainz. He clearly knew what he had to do, and he absolutely went for it, especially on this final bit of that super sector.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz going all in. Every card on the table, pushed as hard as he could. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be quite enough. He fell a couple of seconds short of being at where he needed to be to take the extra 5 championship points. Good effort, though. Great fun for us all to watch.
So this is a reminder of the final 4 cars that took to the track today for the second part of qualifying. First up, it was that Segi TV car of Chip Ganassi, and gosh, we knew they would be rampant. They really went for it, but it was heartbreaking for that car.
It was indeed. This was Kyle Leduc headed into the woods section. As he came around the second right-hander, it was clear that he had no power. And we must point out, at this point, he was going green all the way down the beach. Then he went pink, meaning that they were on for the top qualifier spot. They climbed out the car, they were hitting the reset buttons. He went into the footwell of the right-hand side. It felt like he was there for hours. In fact, it was only just over 3 minutes. Then it was a case of, okay, can you race and get ahead of Andretti United, who'd had a similar issue. Sarah Price falling over on her race to get to the car. They tried so hard, but unfortunately, Jenny, it saw them fall down the order, and it's a real shame because the commitment from Price and Leduc has been epic.
Exceptional, absolutely exceptional. They have been fun to watch, and don't worry, because they will be fun to watch tomorrow. There are points still up for grabs when they go into that race. Next up,
JBXE, yeah, Michaela Arlen-Kotlinski away from the line.
Yep, going great guns. Remember, replacement Jenson Button not in the car this weekend. It is the Hansen brother, Kevin Hansen. So the 2 brothers going head-to-head, and we heard that could be interesting tomorrow because they're used to being teammates. This time they're going to be rivals, and that really changes things up.
Yeah, we spoke to Katie Munnings, Timmy Hansen's teammate. She said Timmy and Kevin not communicating about the sporting side of things, and that just goes to show you how they operate as professional drivers. They are being employed by separate teams, and they can't share that information. I can't wait. Well, I wanted to see them go wheel to wheel, but of course, thinking about it, we're not going to, are we? Because Timmy Hansen and Katie Munnings, unfortunately, at the bottom of the order, going to be in the shootout race.
Christine, GZ and Oliver Bennett were up next, and they knew what they had to do. The job was very clear for them. They saw their chance to get a place in the semi-finals, so they went relatively conservative, although it doesn't look like that, does it, from GZ, who's going there. She's picking up a lot of the sand, and they posted a decent time in the end.
On to the final car, it was Laia Sanz and Carlos Sainz. Laia Sanz getting more of a feel for 4 wheels. Remember, coming from that bike background. Great drive by her, but it was about Carlos Sainz and the second lap. They knew that there were 5 championship points up for grabs in the super sector, and the Matador was up for it.
Yeah, DNF in the first qualifying session. Water pressure issue meant, I mean, they haven't got a lot to play for in this one, but everything is about gaining experience for them. We've got 3 more X Prix to go to, so this all valuable information.
Well, here are the standings at the end of Q2, and it's Loeb and Gutierrez for X44 that take the top qualifier spot again here in Senegal. Then Christopherson, Taylor, Ekstrom, Kleinsmith will be in Semi 1. 4 to 6, Semi 2, 7 to 9, the shootout.
It's all about legacy programs here as well, so let's find out more about the long-lasting impact that we can have.
At each race, Extreme E is working with organisations on environmental projects to leave behind a positive legacy in each location. With the focus here on the health of our oceans, they have teamed up with Senegalese association Oceanium. Together they will plant 1 million mangrove trees in an effort to help reforest and sustain this incredible ecosystem.
Now, mangroves are really, really interesting. They're these plants that have adapted to living in salty water, very high temperatures, and what is seemingly an inhabitable space. One of the biggest roles of mangroves is that they take carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and they store it in their roots and in the ground. If we deforest an area, especially somewhere like a mangrove, it means that we're releasing that carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. They're also really important for protecting the coastal area. If you can imagine that there's a community living behind a mangrove habitat, they live in equilibrium because the mangrove protects that community from storm surges or really big waves.
La mangrove a une importance capitale dont beaucoup de personnes ne connaissent pas. La population de Joal-Fadiout, ils travaillent que dans la mangrove. Ils cherchent des huîtres, ils cherchent des jarches, c'est ça qu'ils payent les scolarités de leurs enfants. Pour moi, c'est une grande importance de reboiser la mangrove. Avec les partenaires extrêmes, on a travaillé la saison dernière, on a fait 65 hectares. Donc on a fait travailler beaucoup de jeunes et le projet, c'était une très bonne chose pour la population de Joal-Fadiout.
The great thing about having the drivers come through is they have a platform to be able to amplify the amazing work going on, but also highlighting some of the issues that are happening on the ground.
This is really cool that we're incorporating racing and also doing good for the environment and the world itself.
I've never done anything like this. To go to a place and we leave a positive mark, that's just amazing and a unique thing for Extreme E.
We come here, we plant the mangroves, and understanding the importance of the mangroves, I have to say, I knew that they were important, but understanding and listening now how they're so important for the community, for the environment, it feels really good to be part of this.
I'm done! It's pretty incredible what these plants do, and learning about it and being able to plant it and hopefully come back in a year and see its first leaf is going to be pretty rewarding.
Well as having a positive legacy in each location, Extreme E is supporting the Counter-Sin initiative, which encourages fans of the teams to take practical steps to reduce their carbon footprint. Here is what it's all about.
The Extreme E Counter-Sin Challenge sees fans and drivers making positive changes to their everyday lives by taking a counter-sin step. Each of the 16 individual steps consists of greener life choices for the greater good of the planet, including flying less, switching to green energy suppliers, and eating seasonal foods.
I'm committed to using less plastic.
I'm going to drive electric.
I'm going to walk and cycle more.
Or maybe skating.
By taking a step and pledging it to a team, the Extreme E fan community is making an active change for the good of the planet, as teams compete to be top of the leaderboard come the end of the season.
So let's have a look at that leaderboard then and find out who is top. And it's X44, Lewis Hamilton's team, leading the way with 78 steps. Then it's Rosberg X Racing with 74, and then a big jump down to JBXE in third place with 33 points. So those are the standings at the moment for the Extreme E Count Us In initiative.
Some brilliant action today during Q1 and Q2 qualifying portion of the weekend over. Some great jumps and some proper sideways. The kickers are still catching people out there. Looking forward to tomorrow's racing.
We've had a really good day of qualifying. We've had 2 qualifying sessions. We've had everybody going out at least once.
And we have seen some really good demonstrations of what Extreme E is all about around here in the Ocean X Prix.
This was apt Cooper, Jutta Kleinsmith making that incredible comeback, having won the Dakar here 20 years ago. Look, she wins the most vertical rear end of the car award, I think, on this part of the course.
It was fabulous to see the X44 car went to take that pole position in the end, and this is how they did it with Loeb and Gutierrez at the wheel. And the talent that is up and down this field, they just have got some incredible drivers.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant through Q1 and Q2 today. Some amazing attacking driving, some bad luck for some of the top teams, but we are set up for brilliant semi-finals tomorrow and the shootout as well. 5 points still to play for in the super sector. Do not miss the action from day 2 of Senegal, round 2 of Extreme E.
Qualifying results then. X44, Gutierrez and Loeb lead the way. Then it's Taylor Christopherson for the Rosberg team, and in third place it's Kleinschmidt and Ekstrom. That will make up our semi-final 1 for tomorrow. Will the winner come out of this group, or will it be semi-final 2? It will be fascinating. Still so much to play for and so much to be excited about. We have the shootout tomorrow, which will be fascinating. 3 of the best teams find themselves languishing in the bottom section, so that will be fun to watch. Chip Ganassi, one of those teams, and they are gonna have an amazing time out there. So there will be 3 cars in the semis, and then the final 4 cars shooting it out for the Ocean X Prix title. Who will it go to? Join us to find out.